You're listening to the Joe Kamo Show. Real sports, real talk.
All right, episode 8, Joe Kamo Show. Special guest. Every guest is special. Annie O.D., what's happening?
Not too much. How about you, Joe?
I'm doing great. So I've had some pretty big names. Chris Johnson really didn't need an introduction. When I go on shows, I got to kind of introduce myself still. Even though millions of downloads in and big on Instagram, not that I'm tooting my own horn, I'm trying to stay humble here, but I always introduce myself. So a lot of people may not know you. So I'm just going to let you describe yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, like you said, I'm Annie O'Donnell. I'm a sports content creator, podcaster, TikToker now, whatever label you want to throw on there. But I talk sports for a living. I make fun videos, and that's pretty much it. I'm based out of New York City, and it's my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I found you fascinating because you're very outspoken. And I think a lot of people these days are kind of afraid to kind of show their face out there, and they're almost kind of shy. And I like you because you're very out there. Again, we need to see more we'll get into this, but I need to see more females out there doing this. And that's one thing that kind of caught my attention when I saw your profile.
Yeah, it was one of the things that held me back from starting my journey in sports for the longest time was a fear of being myself. And I've always been very opinionated when it comes to sports. I grew up with 4 brothers, no sisters. So in order to get my voice heard, you got to speak louder sometimes. But that's honestly, it's what's made me, I think, successful for the most part. And so far in this journey is I don't really keep to an agenda because I don't have to, for one, but I keep it real. I say what's on my mind. People can disagree if they want to. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but regardless, you're getting somebody that's true to their self. And that's my whole mantra is like, be kind of fearless and authentically myself. And it's worked for me so far. So I'm keeping it going while I can.
Yeah, you're kind of describing myself here because I'm pretty fearless, as you can see with my content. And the problem is, and it's like, I heard Joe Rogan, all these people talk about, he kind of talks about the mainstream and all that stuff. It's so non-authentic when you look at mainstream news. It's like when the news anchor looks at the other news anchor, hey, Cheryl, hey, Barbara, how are the kids today? And it's so fake and non-authentic. And I want to bring that authenticism, if that's even a word, authenticness to this podcast. And I'm not really, I wasn't an English major. Actually, English was one of my better subjects, but that's besides the fact. I just want to bring the realness to this show and bring people like yourself to the show as well, so that we can kind of, take over together and show people that you can be yourself online. You don't have to have a huge network and a production to produce real raw content. And again, I saw that with your show. So that was something that was fascinating with me. That's why I asked you on. I appreciate you being on. I don't want to tap into sports that you're not into. So what main sports do you know and understand? Because I'm a football guy. If you ask me about who the starting pitcher for the Dodgers is, I don't even know if the Dodgers are even a team right now. I'm just so out of the football loop. I couldn't even, I'm being honest, like I couldn't even tell you anything. I grew up following the Blue Jays growing up in Canada, but what sports are you into so we don't go out of that realm?
Well, big baseball fan. I'm a huge Dodgers fan, so it's funny that you bring that up. Grew up in a big hockey family, so always love talking hockey. I love all 4 major professional sports. And I want to if we have time, I want to pick your brain a little bit. I know you're an MMA boxing guy, and I got really into boxing when I moved to New York. Put on the gloves for the first time and hit the boxing gym, and it's been my saving grace ever since.
Right.
And I was very upfront about that on my podcast. When I remember the first fight, I was very nervous to even touch boxing for so long because it's something totally new for me. But I remember it was the second Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua fight where I kind of opened. I was like, listen, I'm still learning this, but these are some of my observations from that fight. And I actually had a boxer, one of my friends from the boxing gym on my show, and interviewing him. I prepared so hard for that because it was a sport that I didn't know.
Right.
And just asking good questions. So would honestly love to pick your brain about that. But yeah, the 4 major professional sports, but hockey and baseball are probably my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you got to get me caught up on baseball because again, I'm completely out of that baseball loop. I have no idea what's going on. I grew up I could probably tell you the 92 Blue Jays. That's as far as I remember. 93, because I watched that World Series growing up. That was very, very interesting for me, for the Toronto area when the Jays won the series in 92, 93. That's as far as I go with baseball knowledge. I tried to get back into it. It's just so hard because there's just so many games. And I tried fantasy baseball probably like in 2012 or 13 or something like that. And I just couldn't get into it because there's just so many games, right? Like it's hard
Right.
to, like, one day would pass or 2 days would pass. I'm like, oh crap, man, my players already played. I got to swap out my pitcher. Like, are you kidding me right now? I couldn't keep up with it. That's why I love fantasy football so much, is because it's 1 week. I have all week to prep for it. And sometimes it's like, I'm so busy. I almost missed the loop on that. So yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
I can't get back into baseball. If I got to focus on MMA and football for me.
Fantasy baseball is one of those things where I tried it once, like you, never again. Like you said, fantasy football, you set your lineup once for the week, you know, check it, you're good. I've done fantasy hockey, less games, but still you kind of have to pay a little bit more attention. You can't really do a once a week thing. As far as fantasy sports go, like football is definitely the easiest to play. But I mean, people that are nuts about baseball love fantasy baseball. So I'm not knocking it by that means and by that regard. And people learn a lot about the game that way. But you know, not my thing either.
Right. So I want to talk about a little bit of football this season. What have you seen that's been completely crazy? To me, it's just been like injuries. It's been absolutely insane. And it's affected a lot of people's fantasy teams. When you look at like the first round draft picks from like it was like pretty much second round, but like Nick Chubb and like CMC, I think he got banged up with the shoulder again. I don't know if
Yeah, I just saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's banged up again. And then Saquon Barkley had Michael Thomas banged up. Devontae Adams was banged up. He's come back now. It's been a disaster. So has that affected your fantasy teams? And what do you think of all these injuries? Has 2020 in general just been crazy, like from what you're seeing as well?
I had Saquon Barkley and Devontae Adams on my team. So week 2 was not great for me. I am somehow, by the grace of God, I will be 7-2 after tonight in one league, by which I have no idea how I am. It's one of those things where you look at the score and you're just like, okay, like I'll take the win. But
Yeah.
it's honestly like that week 2 really felt, it was kind of one of those things where you heard a lot of talk of people thinking, well, did COVID have any impact on this? Did no preseason have an impact? And for me, like injuries are one of those things, like, I mean, you're an athlete, you know, they're bound to happen. Freak plays happen, you know, bad turn, you turn on your foot wrong, something like that. And I feel like it was just one of those things where it's just typical 2020 where all these big names get hurt that one week. And it's been, because this is the first, there hasn't been a pause for the NFL, at least, you know, there's knock on wood with a few bye weeks hitting there with COVID cases. But, you know, with baseball being delayed, basketball, you had the pause, hockey, you had the pause, and football was able to it was during the off season that COVID happened. So everyone's been anticipating this. And we've got the first kind of full season where sure, there's differences without fans and fans in some arenas, but for the most part, it kind of gives you that sense of normalcy again in your household. So I'm sure we're in for more surprises in 2020 as far as football goes, but so far it's been entertaining and I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy season, crazy year all around. And I don't know how you felt, but when I heard the news about Kobe Bryant this year, it feels like ages ago already. It was kind of like that September 11th when that happened, right? It's kind of like, where were you when it happened? And it's like, when I heard that was probably the most shocking news I've ever heard in sports when it comes to a sports related death. Did that kind of shock you as well, big time, when you heard that?
As a Southern California native and a diehard Lakers fan, I idolized Kobe Bryant growing up. And it was one of those things where you're in sports media, you're in content, and someone asked me one day, you know, who's your dream interview? And without a beat, I said Kobe Bryant. And it was back later in 2019, someone asked me that. The news is kind of just blindsiding. You look at a guy like Kobe and you just see him as invincible, this hardworking guy who, you know, his life after basketball, he was able to, you know, show players that, hey, like your life and your career don't end once you stop playing ball. He's a guy so many people looked up to, and just related to, I believe, just because he had that Mamba mentality that could be so transferable into any aspect of life. And just such a devastating loss. And I still, like, there's times where I have to remind myself that he's not here, just because I think part of that's because I've never met him in person. So it's not like he was here. He was always kind of like I don't know what the word for it is, but he was always like a spirit. He was always just kind of there.
The omnipresence of, it was like he was like an omnipresent household name that everybody knew. And it was just such a huge shock to everybody.
Exactly. And you kind of see, just like months, like I remember early that basketball season, he and Gigi were going to games and sitting courtside, and every chance you get, the camera panned over and they're talking the game. And it's still surreal. And it's hard to believe we're coming up on a year, in a couple months, but it's just surreal. You look back at those clips and it's heartbreaking that they're both gone.
Yeah, the fact that he was so young, and you look at a guy like that's, you think that he's in the best shape of his life, and then you hear that news. I mean, you expect, I hate to say this, but Alex Trebek, like he's had, I think he died of cancer, did he not? So
yeah,
you kind of expect that a little bit more. It softens the blow because he's such a household name. Trebek, he grew up. I wasn't a big Jeopardy fan because I had no idea what they were talking about.
Same.
I'm just not that smart. If it doesn't include an inning or a period or a halftime, I did not focus on it. So, so when you're looking at Alex Trebek, it sucks. Like, holy crap. It's like losing like Bob Barker. I think he's still alive. Like, if he goes, I mean, it's still, Bob Barker is a big name, Price is Right. But yeah, when Kobe went, it was just like, wow, it's just kind of like you just run into a brick wall. So yeah, 2020 has just been absolutely insane. And it's just weird how it just continues on with the injuries, because I've seen injuries in seasons, but this is just like on another level. We saw Kyle Allen in week 9 this past week that passed. I mean, he broke his ankle and fractured his leg. We saw Dak Prescott go down. Zeke's just underperforming. He had a hamstring. I think it's
now he's not hurt. Yeah.
Wait, forget that. No, he actually did have a hamstring going into this week, but I meant to say Saquon Barkley. So yeah, it's just been insane with injuries. I don't know. I'm just kind of at a loss for words, and I just hope that we make it to the end of this year and just put this behind us and kind of move forward without anything catastrophic happening from now until New Year's Eve. You know what I mean?
I'm pretending to knock on wood. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And then, there's obviously the conversation of like when sports are going to have, the NBA is in talks of when they're going to happen. Baseball's figuring out if they're going to start on time. Same with hockey. Like, it's hard to believe that, like, we want to see an end to this. We want to see whether it's COVID, whether it's just the weird year that 2020 has been. And I think at this point, we're all just kind of taking it in stride. And for a lot of us, like I know in California, no one's allowed to go to games yet. So we're wondering and thinking, when's the next time we're going to watch our teams play?
Right.
And for so many people, sports it's an escape. It's their community. It's, how they interact and meet people they wouldn't normally come across. So being stuck inside, whether it's your apartment or your home, just watching the game rather than going to the stadium or going to your favorite bar, it's taxing on a lot of people. So by all hopes of that, I'm glad it's back. And there's obviously, thank God for social media and the internet where people can meet people and interact. Like sports Twitter is alive. And like, I've met so many friends just through social media where you wouldn't normally come across, and all because of sports. So it's a good thing we have that community as well. Cause otherwise, I don't know. I know things would not be well for me.
I'm just not a Twitter guy. I just think everybody's a keyboard warrior, and you can say I do that on Instagram, but there's a difference with me. Okay. Like we're going to go back to boxing in a second. So I don't know if you remember, we knew each other like a month or two ago, but if you're following my page, or I don't think we were following each other, but I had it out with Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if you saw that on my stuff, on my social.
I didn't know.
I keep talking about this on my shows, but it just keeps coming up. Oh, I kind of keep bringing it up. Long story short, I saw a boxing clip of him. He looked like crap. Like he's
Yes. Yo, me and my boxing friends talk shit on that.
He's so clunky. Like it's like watching
bad form. Yeah, bad form.
Man, it's like it's so robotic, and like watching it. So I went on there and I said, dude, like focus on. I don't know how I think I put it in a post or something, or I called him out. I go, focus on doing football because you're not doing a good job at that. instead of boxing. Cause like, obviously you need work on football. He came back and said something like, yo, you're out of shape, blah, blah, blah. And then he put me in his story mode. Then he realized that putting me in his story mode, cause he's got millions of followers, was helping my channel. Cause
I
everyone
was going to say,
so then
free press.
then he took it down. I'm sure his agent got in touch with him. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is a lot of people talk a lot of shit. I want to box him. Like I actually said I would train and box him because I've got an MMA background. I'm not the greatest boxer. Like I'm not here saying I'm Khabib or, you know, Adesanya or, you know, Mike Tyson in his prime, but
Yeah.
I can hold my own. And I think because from what I've seen, the way he moves, I destroy him. So the point I'm trying to make is I kind of avoid Twitter. There's just so many keyboard warriors that I would smash in a fight. And I just can't get Twitter going. So I kind of pioneered the fantasy community on Instagram. It's kind of my home. I branched out to TikTok. I'm good on podcasting and YouTube. I dabble in Twitter, but I just think that everybody is a tough guy on Twitter. And I just kind of ignore the noise out there. Do you find there's a lot of noise on that platform?
Absolutely. Oh my God. For one, I do want to, before I answer that question, I need to ask, who do you think's who's better on mitts, Stephen A or Le'Veon Bell?
Oh man, it's got to be Le'Veon Bell.
I'll say Stephen A looked terrible. Like part of that, which there's this Instagram account called Boxing Shame, where it's just because listen, I am all for people like getting in shape. Boxing is a great way to work out, great cardio workout, you know, it relieved a lot of anxiety and stress for me during a very stressful time. I'm all for that. However, like whenever I talk to people, I'm like, look, if you're going to take up boxing, if you're going to go into a gym, get a trainer and get someone to teach you that knows what they're doing. And
I'm watching Boxing Shame. Sorry, I'm just watching Boxing Shame.
Isn't it? Oh, it's the best.
They don't have enough followers. They only got 2,400 followers, right?
There needs to be more. I know. It's a hidden gem.
This guy is training this guy with those water noodles.
Yeah.
and the hits that he's hitting with like a hammer fist to the side. It looks like back slapping. I've never seen this in my, actually, this is my new, I'm going to follow this page now. Boxing Shame. It's my new thing now.
The best is when you see like ones that look like dance moves. Like people are it's just like rapid, like, which combinations are fine. Like I'm fine with doing those, but like, you're not going to get anything out of just like all the they try to be like Floyd Mayweather, where it's just like the fast, quick hand movements. And you're just like, okay, let's work our way up to that.
But the funny thing is, you can't really blame so much the athletes. It's more the trainers that are.
Absolutely. Oh, it's 100% the trainer. Yeah. I mean, especially if someone doesn't know what they're doing, if they're new, they don't know they're doing it wrong.
I'm going to literally spend the entire day watching all these clips and getting a good laugh.
There's some fun stuff. Stephen A is on there, but going back to your original question, Twitter's a lot of noise, and there's times where like I'll be on there a little bit and, you know, interacting with people. There's a community for every sport on there, which is why, I try to stay involved. But if sometimes I'll find myself on there too much and you just feel drained and you're overwhelmed, and so many, like you said, so many opinions out there, and you're just like, a lot of negativity too. So there's times where you just have to step away. And plus, maybe this is, you said I'd say it like it is. I'm going to say it. So many people, like, they have a personality on Twitter and then they leave Twitter and it's just kind of like nothing. Like you said, keyboard warriors, like they're good, like typing something, saying it out, but then you have an actual conversation with them and you're just like,
yeah.
Where was that?
I don't want to give this guy any credit, or these guys, but there was this fantasy podcast. They had just up and coming. This was like 2 years ago. My brand is a lot bigger than it was back then, but I was still hacking attention. So they basically came out on Twitter talking bad about me because, in one of my posts, it is kind of funny. Like I kind of have the football and I'm holding, and you can kind of see my bicep in the image. So one guy tried to imitate me, making fun of me with the bicep. Obviously his bicep wasn't as nice as mine, but anyway, that's beside, take the narcissist. No,
Not that it matters, but
yeah, he didn't look as good. So he came out and did that. And back then I didn't take it personally, but I kind of took it. I'm like, dude, like, you don't, and I started making fun of him. So I saw him at a fantasy convention and we were in a line and I had seen his face. I didn't know him that much. And I think it was just two of his goons beside him. And the three of them were there and I knew they were behind me and they saw me and I kind of saw him from the corner of my eye. And I could see that they were talking a big game that they could punch me out and beat me up. But it's kind of like when they looked at me, they had their tail between their legs. I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? And then they're like, oh, hey. And then they were kind of nice and real person. And again, that's the problem with social media. It's like everybody's a dick and you think you can act like that. But in reality, when you see them, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean?
nah. Especially, I feel like while the internet's like a big community, I feel like the sports is very small and like people know people. And when you're like, there's people that have like burner accounts about other creators, which I was like, for one, that's just like living rent free. But like two, that you're wasting your time and your effort to troll or make fun of somebody else. And it's just like, yo, like worry about yourself, work on your own game, like rather than bringing down somebody else. That's a part of Twitter I really hate. Plus like the cancel culture kind of vibe there. I'm a big believer in, second chances and not all the time, but growth and, that you can change yourself as a person. And so many people on there are just looking to ruin people. And I don't vibe with it. So I try to keep my feed clean of that kind of negativity.
For sure. I mean, I had a bunch of accounts and I still do where they come up. I won't even give them any publicity or any type of attention, but there was some accounts about me, but I think they've kind of faded off, but they always kind of pop up. They're like Counselor Fan 101. And it's like, I look at it, they have one post about me and they're imitating me and they do close-ups of my face. It's just, the hate is honestly real. And it's really weird because when you look at my brand, and I understand why you kind of hate me because I'm kind of like trash talking stuff, but if you really know me, I'm not really like that. But the reason I do it is because I have a chip on my shoulder from the mainstream consensus. And I won't name names, but there were some people from some of these 4-letter networks that I've met in real life and they're absolute dicks to me. And I can sense the arrogance and there's a lack of humility. And it was like, okay, who the hell are you coming out? But hey guys, wake up to reality. You can now create your own platform and become a personality. Just because you have a network backing you doesn't make you stronger than the other person. So that is why I have a chip on my shoulder, is because the white collar mainstream consheeps, which I call, I have basically, kind of tried to put me down. And that actually, what they don't realize is that actually makes me stronger. It fuels my fire. So I'm all about diversity. And, I want more women, to be on the forefront. I want more people. Like I'm a born Canadian, but my background is Assyrian, which is Middle Eastern. So
Yeah.
I'm technically a brown dude and I'm okay with that, but it's like, I'm just not your typical white collar Ivy League. My dad made a phone call to the 4-letter network kind of guy. And I don't care, and I don't want to be that guy. So if I got a call from ESPN today and they said, Joe, here's $1 million, we want you to be on our show, I would probably not do it, because I would rather do what I'm doing, because I think the ceiling for what I'm about to do and what I'm about to do to the sports industry is much farther than a salary where they're going to limit what I say. And, you can't say this, you can't say that. Imagine if I worked for ESPN or another network and I said, hey man, Le'Veon Bell sucks, I would be fired probably on day one. So again, I want to create this platform kind of the same way Joe Rogan did. And you can call me the Joe Rogan of sports. That's fine. I'm not copying him, but I want to create a similar thing where it's free talking, it's sports related, and, more people can, grow. And I want people to grow. Really.
I love hearing that, because that's honestly what I did with my brand. Was I went to school for sports marketing, thought I wanted to work for a sports team for the longest time, and did internships. And I realized I didn't want to do that. Went out into the real world, always knew I wanted to either be in sports in some capacity, and whether it was working for a team or something. And my time at my job it did end. And when I was trying to figure out, what I wanted to do, I was interviewing. I tried to go back into like, oh, maybe I'll get in with an organization route, but I knew I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And I remember getting really far down with one team, and I was sitting there for like a 4-hour interview, and I was sitting there like last round, so close. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to do this. Like, I seriously don't. But so many times when people want content, when they want analysts or anyone making any sort of commentary, they either require that you've played the sport, which for like football, not possible for me, or that you have a journalism degree, which always, I was kind of there sitting there thinking like, why does a journalism degree mean you can talk sports? Like that's stupid for me. I'd rather hear from people that are passionate and know the game and love it rather than somebody that just, went to Syracuse or Columbia. So I paved my own way when there were doors shut and there was no way for me. I was like, well, you know what? I'll dig my own tunnel. I'll light the tunnel up myself. And so far it's been great. That's why like when so many people ask me, like I get like in DMs from college kids and they're like, oh, what do you offer internships? What do you recommend I start doing? I was like, listen, my path is very unconventional. It's not, cookie cutter, which nothing I've done has ever been conventional. So it's pretty on brand, but it's making your own way. And that's the best part about social media. I think amidst all the bad, there's the good where you can create your own career, make your own platform. Like you've completely created this. I call it an empire because it feels like it is with your engagement.
There yet. I'm not happy. Like, honestly, I've built millions of downloads. And that's the thing. I can go to university right now or whatever, college, and I can get a marketing degree, right? And I can come to you and say, I got a marketing degree. Or I can say, hey, here's my Lipson numbers or my podcast hosting numbers, Podbean, whatever platform you use. Here's my millions of downloads. Here's my Instagram. Here's my verified, not that you need a verified check, but here is what I've done here. Here's the, 6-figure plus salary I'm making off what I've been doing between sponsors and product. I think that is more powerful than here's my marketing degree, because I've actually gone and achieved those results. And to be honest with you, I think I feel the same way with you. That's kind of why I wanted to have you on. So everybody's like I'm really nice to the people that I have on because I kind of handpicked them and I said, hey, can you come on my show? Because I kind of see what you're already doing. I'm not trying to pick out slouches and say, hey, you've got 5 followers. Not that having 5 followers is even a big deal, but I can kind of see the effort. So many people say, hey, Joe, can I be a writer for you? Well, what have you done? Like, show me that you've done that. Right. But to be honest with you, I'm going to be straight up. I don't think that I would be fit for a mainstream network, nor would I want to be. Neither do you, because I think we're too alpha in some degree to be tamed by the machine, and that's just me. You'd have to tame me. The first week in, I'd be like, fucking turn that light off. I don't want that fucking light. Like, and I wouldn't be like, not in an arrogant, I'm an asshole way, but in like, don't tell me what to do. Don't give me that script. Don't let me read that. I think that guy fucking sucked this week. You want me to tell them that he kind of gingerly went off? You played gingerly this week? No, he fucking sucked this week. Let's be honest. Like, that's what I would say. So they just wouldn't be able to tame the beast.
Nah,
honestly.
You're not fit for the Mickey Mouse network. Nah.
And I'm going to smash them. I've actually created something called the Fan to Fan Network, which I should introduce to everybody there. But we've got all of the team ambassadors from every YouTube channel, fantofannetwork.com. It's pretty amazing. So we've got the top Law Nation from the Cowboys. We've got Chiseled Adonis. We've got all of the team ambassadors in one spot. We do a virtual tailgate. It's an amazing community we've created, and it's growing fast. So I'm creating an empire with Fan to Fan, with the Joe Kamo Show, with the Counselor brand. It's becoming its own little animal. And again, I'm not doing this out of like anger. I'm doing this because I'm actually passionate about really helping people that have personalities that are not cookie cutter succeed. And again, that's what I love what you're doing, not kissing anybody's ass here, but I'm genuinely mean that I really like what you're doing. And I like that you're vocal and outspoken. And I don't think you should ever lose that.
I don't plan on it. It's gotten me this far, and it's honestly the enjoyment just for so long, just being put into, I don't want to say a box, but for so long I was very like hidden about who I was. Like I would let my sports love be known like vaguely. And then when people got to know me, they were like, oh shit, like you love this stuff. Like you're very passionate. Like I've never seen this before. And that's when my life changed, was when I really started to own who I was and stop caring what people thought of me. That was a big concern for the longest time. And then when I finally let go of that, was literally when my life changed. It was finally like, I know I've cursed a few times on your show, so my apologies if you need to edit. Okay. You said Joe Rogan. So I was like, all right. Yeah, so literally my motto is like, fuck them. Like, I'm going to do me. At the end of the day, you don't pay my bills. You don't pay my rent. Like, I'm going to live my life and do what I want to do and say what I want to say. If I want to say, like, I don't know if you're Canadian. I don't know if you're a big hockey guy though. If I want to go on my show and say that Corey Crawford's a joke of a goaltender, I can do that. It's great. And it angers everyone that lives in Chicago. But honestly, I don't know if you're like this, and I feel a little evil for saying this, but like pissing people off kind of gives me a rush of enjoyment a little bit, ruffling feathers. That's why I love gritty and pesty players. That's why I love the Corey Perrys, the Brad Marchands in the NHL. I love guys that get under people's skin and make the game fun and entertaining, because I relate to that on a level. I don't want to say things that people want to hear. I don't want to say things that are just, things that people expect women to say most of the time on these networks. Like, with all due respect, like you watch some people, like you say, on ESPN, on some of these things, and they say, the politically correct things, well, he didn't have the best game. Oh, well, these little things impacted. You're like, no, like you said, he's flat out sucked.
He sucked.
Like, and here's X, Y, and Z. And here's an example. Everyone says he's elite. He's got 3 championships. No, like, let's look back. He had to get carried for those 3 championships. And I feel like a lot of people tell me, like you said, you say, tell it like it is kind of thing. And I'm going to ride that because it's working for me so far. And that's why a lot of people ask, they're like, oh, what's end goal for you? Like, my parents' friends will always say, oh, this is good for her to find like a career. And I was like, no, this is my career. This is what I want to do. And I don't know what end game is yet. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but I'm having a blast trying new things and figuring out what it is.
You just got to do what you love. I was just talking to my friend Ryan Dixon. I think it's the episode before this. He was an MMA fighter. Then he had a bit of a downhill kind of trend, lost a couple of fights, and then he got testicular cancer at some point. I think it was before he started losing those fights. And he had said that his dad wanted him to be like an engineer or like a millwright or electrician or one of those. I think it was an electrician. Either way, he said that had he figured out that he had testicular cancer after he had, like, if he had like gone those, because he knew that when he had testicular cancer, he had basically fought for 4 years, traveled to Brazil, Thailand, doing what he was doing. Had he gone his dad's route and said, I want to be an electrician, and found out he had testicular cancer, he would have been like, oh crap, man, shit, I just wasted 4 fucking years of my life doing what I don't love to do. So definitely, I think you should do what you love to do. And I think you're really good at it. I just want to give you some constructive criticism. I think that you should post more. I think you're not posting enough. Like, I'm looking at your Instagram.
I know I'm not posting enough. I know for a fact I'm not posting enough. I feel like maybe it's more I have to figure out like what content I want to keep on because I have like the podcast Instagram and then my Instagram. And nowadays when people who follow me, they know what they're going to get. They know they're going to get sports. They know they're going to get maybe some like city, basic girl shots, but for the most part, you're getting sports. You're getting my reactions, funny memes, whatever. So I do need to post more. I
would be on there daily. If I'm you right now, I'd go to your main one, which is, what is it? Sweet Annie
OD.
Okay. So I would go on there today and I would do a video. I would go on there and talk about week 9 recap. It doesn't have to be glamorous. I would just pick up your phone and just talk to the camera. And I would do it daily with the right hashtag. That's, again, you could take it for what you want, but I think your channel will blow up pretty quickly. Just because I think you've got that sharp personality and that outgoing personality. I think a lot of guys the armchair quarterback will gravitate to that.
The armchair quarterback. That's actually how I first kind of got comfortable enough to want to launch my podcast. Is one day one of my biggest pet peeves with sports fans is the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Is the people that feel like they need to, which we'll probably get into this in a little bit when we talk DMs, but the ones that feel the need to quiz you and like tell you, oh, you're not a real fan unless you do this, which for me, like back when I was younger, I cared about that stuff. But now I'm like, yo, sports are for everyone. There's no barrier to entry. Like if you like a sport, if you want to get into it, by all means, like do so. I'm not going to stop you. No team is paying fans to gatekeep and test who's a true fan. So I hopped on there and I ranted. I literally turned on the camera, ranted for a minute, and it was terrifying, but it was so liberating. And from there, like just I was like, I had the idea of a podcast for a little bit. And then after that happened, I said, let's give it one more try. At that point, I was unemployed. I had gotten let go from my job 4 months prior and nothing was coming through. And I was like, you know what do I have to lose? It's kind of like one of those.
I have a problem with authority. I don't like people telling me what to do. That's why I can't work for anybody anymore. Do you have the same thing? It's like the entrepreneur. Do you have this feeling like, who are you to tell me what to do? And that's not good enough.
Exactly. I don't know if you're an anagram guy, but my anagram, I got the entrepreneur. I was like, yep, that's about right.
Yeah, I don't like anybody telling me what to do. And that's another problem on why I could never, ever work for anybody anymore. And I remember quitting my day job. I was making about $100,000 a year. I guess maybe if you include bonuses and stuff like that, it was up there. I had a car allowance and I was making a transition. How I got into this was I was building this podcast while simultaneously building social media accounts. So I would do the marketing for social media accounts. And at that point, I had 3 or 4 accounts. I wasn't making huge dollars, but it was a leap of faith. But it was so liberating and it felt really good to tell my boss in a nice way, because it was actually the last boss I had was pretty nice. Actually, hey, man, I appreciate it, but I'm going to have to do this on my own. And it's still a grind. This was like 3 years ago, but I haven't worked for anybody for 3 to 4 years, and it feels so good. It's unbelievable. And that's my mission, is because I hate seeing people, I don't know your whole situation, but people like yourself working for somebody when there's so much talent there. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm building Fan to Fan. I want everybody to monetize their following to a point where they're like 6-7 figures and they're doing what they do and not having to go to a college or a university or having your dad call a 4-letter network to get you in. Because I think there's so much untapped, raw, natural talent in sports broadcasting that's just not out there yet.
You talk about, jobs in previous, there's nothing worse. You said something about wasting 3 to 4 years, the MMA fighter wasting 3 to 4 years of his life. And I got to tell you, it's a certain type of pain and just anguish knowing you're waking up every day and not doing what you were brought on this earth to do. It killed me. It drained me. So it was honestly like a sign from the universe. I got lots of condolences after I was let go from my job due to cost cutting, but I was miserable. It felt like freedom in a sense. And to be honest, from there, I was like, I don't want to go back into an office. I don't want to do a 9-to-5 type deal. I wasn't in sports specifically, but it was just, I talk about it so much and I get kind of emotional thinking about it, but it's just kind of like where you were and where I am now, just like a year and a half later. Like you said, there's untapped talent and potential out there. Like I was sitting there, like plugging things into an Excel sheet and being told constantly I wasn't good enough, smart enough, wasn't working hard enough. And for me, that's very hard to hear, because when I love what I'm doing, I am the hardest worker there is. I will check all my boxes. I will make sure I'm putting 110% into it. So for me to not do that, I really got to hate it.
That's the Concheapsis telling you that their opinion doesn't matter, right? It's just like
exactly. And that's exactly. And but the thing is, like, when you're told it for so long, and when people think that, people have these assumptions about you and things, you start to believe it once you're told it over and over again, no matter what. That's why I hit the boxing gym so much during that time. It was the one time of my day that I was happy. And it was the one time my day I could control something in my life rather than have the inconsistencies of a boss that I won't say anything. I won't legally say anything, but just not a good situation. It makes me, that's why anyone that's in a situation where they know that the job is not bringing them joy, if it's just a paycheck, I was like, I get it, especially if you have a family and kids to feed, but at the end of the day, it's your happiness. You have one life to live. So if you know, like, you're not meant to have a boss, if you know that you want to do your own thing, like I always tell people, I was like, go for it.
Yeah. I don't want to spend, we could be here for 4 hours talking about how many bad bosses I had, the arrogance.
Literally.
And the thing is, like, man, it was just terrible. I won't even get into that. But going back to boxing, I bought an Echo bike. It's a Rogue Echo Airdyne bike. It's awesome for interval training. I've got one of those speed bag, not a speed bag. It's on a pole and you hit it. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Back to you. I'm hitting that. It's amazing because it's like it really works your timing and coordination. I've got a heavy bag and I've got kind of a home gym now. And I usually we're supposed to do our show today, you and I at 1. I'm like, you know what? I can't. I got to try to get it in the morning because I really, from 1 to 3, I kind of use that time slot to hit the bag, and it feels so good, and it lets off any type of frustrations that you have in your life. And I think everybody should be focused on their physical fitness as well. And without physical fitness, and if I wasn't doing that, I don't think I'd be on the top of my game trying to do this, because it takes a lot of energy to try to book these interviews, do the actual, I'm right now, as of right now, I could pay somebody, but I choose just to, bank that money. But until this thing blows up even more, but literally it's like the editing, the production, I'm the talent. I got to bring the talent in. I'm doing everything in one shot, and it takes a lot of mental energy to do that. And you probably know that as well.
It's a lot. And you talk the way you talk about, physical fitness. For me, like, that's crucial. I don't feel productive if I haven't worked out. Like, if I try to do a rest day, just relax the muscles, because I find if I get overworked, then I have to take like a few days off. But I need to be working out 4 to 5 days a week at least. Otherwise, like, I just feel sluggish. I feel like my ideas and my content isn't that great at that point. Like, it's so important to take care of yourself, whether it's, mental health, physical health. I've had to take care of my physical health since I was in my teens, which, at the time it kind of sucked, especially with, when you're a kid. I feel like you can get away with like eating what you want and having those fun foods. Yeah, I wasn't able to do that, but I'm grateful for it now because I know how to take care of myself. I know what foods and what exercises are best for me to perform the best. I know if I have any kind of sugar in the morning, like the rest of the day, I'm just sluggish and lazy and I don't want to do anything. So I definitely keep it clean for the most part, as far as, nutrition. And yeah, I mean, like you said, you want to have that 1 to 3 time, and it's important to reserve that for yourself. Like, I know going for, I live right near Central Park, going for a run helps me clear my head. I go before I record or plan a podcast because it kind of helps me run through the ideas in my head, whether I'm talking to myself on my run, which I do that a lot. But it's, you got to do those little things. It's those little things people don't think help your content, especially with quarantine right now, or COVID, where people think like locking themselves in will make them productive. Everyone's working from home. And you're like, no, you gotta release those endorphins. You gotta get yourself moving, because it's important to take care of yourself.
How is New York right now? I heard it's a bit of a ghost town. I mean, you were obviously probably there when it was before pre-COVID. How is it now? Is it like a ghost town? Is it lacking tourists? I heard that it's kind of gone down to the shitter, that town, that city.
March and April were definitely dead. There's no way around it. Once, outdoor dining started happening, is when things started to come back alive. For me, it never died. It's always been New York. But it'll be interesting. Once the weather starts getting colder, it'll be interesting. Luckily, I'm escaping to San Diego, my hometown, in 2 weeks for the holidays. So I will not have to worry about that, at least for about a month and a half. But it's been, at first, obviously the cases were very high here, so people took it very seriously. So in return, I'm masked up everywhere I go. I go on a run, I have my mask on. It's not necessarily the most comfortable thing, but for me, it's keeping myself healthy, my roommate healthy, and when I go home, my parents healthy.
You have to wear a mask when you're out on the streets there?
Oh yeah.
Really? That's crazy.
Everyone's got to wear masks. Yep. Otherwise you're out. I wouldn't dare go outside without a mask. Someone's going to throw a coffee in my face if I do. But it's, it's kind of everybody's pretty, you kind of look out for each other in that sense, where it's mask on. I remember, there's time I've gone on a couple of flights, back to California, and I see things online where people like are just blatantly refusing to wear a mask. And like, that's just unheard of for me here, where I'm just like, I run 6 miles straight with a mask on. Like, you can sit still, you can go for a 20-minute grocery store run with a mask on. Like, it's just little things like that where I'm like,
Yeah.
Just put it on.
What are you doing in New York? How do you end up from sunny California to New York? How does that happen?
So, there's a few stops in between there. I went to school in Pittsburgh. I wanted to go to school in a sports town. I knew I wanted to be in a city that just bled its colors of its sports teams. And there is no city like Pittsburgh when it bleeds black and gold. It was culture shock for me coming from a beach town in San Diego to see that, 30-year season ticket wait for the Steelers, priests wearing black and gold on Sunday.
Right.
And then after I graduated, I took an entry-level business job in Chicago. I knew I wanted to live in a city and I didn't want to live at home with my parents. And that's a different kind of sports town, but definitely a passionate one. I was there when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. I know you said you're not a baseball guy, but I'm sure you knew when that happened.
I remember that. I remember I think Back to the Future Part 2 predicted that or something.
Yes, they did. And then I knew I wanted to get back to the East Coast. Both my parents are from New York, so I always loved the fast-paced mentality. I never thought I would live in New York City because everyone talks about how expensive it is and dirty, and I just never pictured it for myself. But a promotion within my old company happened, and it happened to land in New York. And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. I did not like the job. I hated the idea of the job, but I was like, no, it'll get me to where I want to go. So ended up there. And like I've said, the first year and a half was not good. And I really didn't get to enjoy. That's why like I said, spent so much time in the boxing gym. It was my way of enjoying New York. It was my community because, the rest of the 40 hours a week were awful. So I really enjoyed New York once that ended because I was able to be a kind of freelance and work on my own time. But it's, there's a reason they call it the greatest city in the world because there's no place like it. It has its days where you're like, God, why do I live here? Like when there's a jackhammer outside, like 9-10 o'clock in the morning. But, the energy, sports fans are interesting here. Very interesting. But other than that, it's nothing like it.
I'm watching your boxing video where you're hitting the pads and you look better than Le'Veon Bell.
I'll take it. Thank you. That's not my normal trainer. So GloveWorks is like a weird kind of workout where they do long combinations, which I don't like personally. I'm a power puncher. So my favorite combination is like the left uppercut, left hook. I love a good double left, but like,
that came out wrong. You look much better than Le'Veon Bell because it's not really a compliment to look anything like Le'Veon Bell when you're boxing.
Very true.
So,
that's one thing about boxing that I didn't know. And part of, vulnerability is something that I've definitely worked on as far as starting this going and putting myself out there. But I'd never put on gloves in my life. So walking into the gym for the first time for a technique class, I was like, holy shit. Like I had to, as an athlete, like I played sports growing up and I'm just kind of naturally athletic. So walking into something and preparing myself to just be beginner level was a test. It was a challenge for me, but I kind of put my head down. I focused and took, I think like 4 technique classes a week on top of regular bags and kind of hit workouts and stuff. But I know I'm not the best boxer. It's only been 2-3 years, but I absolutely love it. And there's nothing like beating the shit out of a heavy bag on a bad day. I tell people it's like if you can't get to a shrink, put on some gloves and just beat up a bag.
Yeah, it definitely feels good hitting the pads. That's something that I found is a big release for me.
Yes.
But let's go to that DM topic here. Let's be honest. So a female being on Instagram, especially in the sports industry, so I'll tell you what my DM looks like. It's kind of like, well, aside from the hate stuff. So my hate looks like this. Hey, I hope you die. Hey, I hope you're a piece of garbage. There's a ton of stuff. How could you say that about my player? How could you do this? So you've got your haters. That's one part of it. I delete and block some of those guys, or I just ignore it. The other part is like, hey, Joe, who do I start? Quick, tell me, who do I start this week? That's probably like 95% of the DMs. Hey,
at 12:50 before kickoff, 10 minutes before kickoff, they're asking you that.
Yeah, like it's like, honestly, I'm not just tooting my own horn. I try to stay humble, but I've probably got, I don't know, 10,000 pending DMs. Like I've gone, sometimes I'm going to be nice today. I'm going to answer like 20 DMs. I go and I hit refresh. It's like back to 99 on the inbox. I'm like, oh my God. it's like nonstop, but it's like, yo, tell me who to start. Yo, quick. Quick, like, dude, like, how am I going to see that? Like, so I see
Yeah.
5 minutes, like, 5 days later, I'll check my DM. Like, oh my God, there's this guy. He had messaged me like 2 weeks ago saying, yo, quick. I'm like, you think I'm really going to get to that? But here's the crazy
Yo,
thing.
quick.
Yo, quick. Yeah, I get that all the time. But the thing is, it's like when I first started this back in like 2015 and I was on Instagram, I vowed to try to get to all DMs. And my friends like, oh, there'll be a point where you can't. And I just thought I would always would, but it is absolutely physically impossible. I'd literally have to just quit everything I do in my life and sit and answer DMs for free. And I just can't do that. I can't afford to do that. But again, that's what kind of my DM looks like. And it's like, oh, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan, stuff like that. That's kind of the extreme. With you, I don't even know, but I'm going to guess it's something along like, yo, you want to go for a coffee? Like, I'm like, do you get hit on a lot? How does it work? How does your DM look? I'm really curious.
It's a mix. It's definitely a mix. There's certain people like that follow you and you just kind of, if you restrict them, they go into the DMs, into the DM requests, but lots of, no one asks to go for a cup of coffee. They usually go for a drink. It's lots of marry me's, which I'm like, okay.
Wow,
who are your favorites? Like, who are your favorite sports teams? Like, who would you pick out of this? Like, lots of the quizzing stuff in there.
They're trying to be subtle. They don't want to go for the direct shot. They're just trying to work it in. They're trying to ease in the game, right?
Exactly. Like, there's, like, I remember I'm not a big dating app person, but I remember beginning of quarantine, I was like, I'm bored. Why not? Like, joined them, which I can't stand because I just find myself like sitting there. I'm like, nope. But one guy, like, literally right out of the gate, because I said, I like sports. I had a few pictures of me in jerseys, and they're like, ranked top 10 wide receivers in the 2020 NFL draft. I'm like, what happened to hello? Like, how are you? I was like, I'm not here for that. Okay.
They're trying to be different. They're trying to be different so that it doesn't sound so like it pops out to you. Like if everyone's like, hey, yo, what's up? My name is John. It just doesn't seem as appealing.
I get that. And it's so funny. And maybe it's like the guy girl complex, but like joining, like, I don't think about that too much, maybe because I don't shoot my shot too much in the DMs, but there's so many people be like, oh, I want to be different. So she notices me. I was like, I got to think like, what would be different enough for me to notice? I really don't know. It's
That's a good question. So what would I have to do in the DM to get your attention? Have you reply back? I'm testing you today.
Okay. I want to say,
they're gonna probably if they listen to this, they're probably gonna try it on you now.
Oh God. I would say honestly, anytime someone messages me about like a compliment about the podcast, anytime someone asks for any advice as far as starting something or doing anything, I always try. My belief, kind of like you, like sending the elevator down, like you've gotten where you are, you want to grow the network, you want to help other people grow. So anytime, and I know how scary and intimidating it can be to sometimes reach out to people. I remember doing that on LinkedIn and you're just like, I feel so awkward. Which
I hate LinkedIn DMs.
I hate LinkedIn. Yes.
It's not even real. It's like, hey man, I started a new marketing agency. You can be the first of the 5% of the people that did X amount. And they give me all these analytics and statistics and you can be the first one. How does that sound to you? I'm like, dude, that's not even a personal, like, that's not even my name.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, dear sir. I'm like,
my least favorite is when you have like a CEO or like VP post something about hard work or like a just really generic story. And then you have all the ass kissers underneath in the comments, like, you're so great. Oh, our great leader. Oh, I'm like, oh God.
It's so fake.
It's so fake. And it's like, I remember when I lost my job, I had friends at my old company that like a lot of people reached out to me and then there's some that didn't, but they would creep my LinkedIn profile like every month to see where I was and what I was doing. I was like, yo, you got my number. Like, we're friends on Facebook. Just shoot me a message. See, like, yo, what are you up to these days? Like, I'd rather have that than get a notification that you viewed my profile. Like, it's so stupid.
So like donkey carrot type mentality. I was at this one company I was with, and I don't want to talk bad about this company because I particularly like this company, but they did the employee of the month thing, and what the
Oh God.
employee of the month would get. And there's like 30 people in the company. It was a manufacturing company. So you have the front office and the back shop, and they'd all come together at the front of the office. And then the employee of the month was awarded by whoever the top three owners would think is that employee of the month, right? Predicated on work ethic, how many sales they got, how many pieces they produced in this back shop, whatever. There's this criteria, this fake criteria they come up with. And what you would get is basically a trophy for that month that sits on your desk, and you get a parking spot that's closest to the front door. But the only difference is like 5 feet between the parking spot that's from the front door to the other parking spot. It's like literally like 2 feet apart. So there really isn't a difference. But that's kind of that's what you felt like if you worked there, you probably felt like really good that you're employee of the month. I worked there for like a year. I never got employee of the month, and I was okay with it. Right. It
Yeah.
was not a big deal, but it's funny how fake and some of these corporate people are. It's just a really, really, really fake society that we live in.
I'm not an ass kisser either. I've never been a teacher's pet, like, which I remember my mom telling me in elementary school. She's like, "Oh, you got to butter up the teacher a little bit." I was like, "No, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? Like, no, like, why? No." But going back to the DM, I was trying to think of others things. I'm a sucker for a good cheesy pickup line. I like anything that's creative, nothing gross, like nothing just vulgar. I don't like that, but like something quirky. I'm like, something for like a good laugh. I'm a sucker for 90s sports movies too. So anything about, The Sandlot, Mighty Ducks, Little
Yeah.
Giants, I love. Like that's a lot of my TikTok content that's gone viral is based around 90s sports movies. I have this talent where it's very easy for me to memorize movie lines and song lyrics. So I was like, I saw this trend on TikTok where people were just talking along with movie scenes. I was like, I can do that. So I just for fun one day set it up. The first one I did was the Miracle, Why'd You Want to Play College Hockey scene. And
Sure.
that one did really well. But the best one that's done it still to date, like I get comments and likes and stuff, is I did the D2, the Mighty Ducks scene, the Ducks Fly Together one. So I have very strong opinions about the Mighty Ducks trilogy. So any kind of slide in about that, like little things, like if you talk about the things that that get me going and that I'm passionate about, I'll more than likely answer those.
Did you
Like
did you run today? Because you look really tired. Did you have a long run?
I don't know. Is that a compliment? I was like, I look tired.
Because you've been running through my mind all day. That's so. That's one of the like something like that would work.
Yeah, I was like, dude, fuck you. I did not get a lot of sleep last night. I was drowning in football highlights. So I was like, do I look that bad?
Well, no. I just, because when you say,
no, that's great.
There was another one when they come up and touch the back of your thing. Let me see that tag behind you. You must be made in heaven.
See, like that cheesy, like is it corny? Yes, but it's like a good way, like ice, like you said, how much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice.
Yeah, there's another one I used to do, or my friends did at the bar. This was like years ago. We used to come up, and I would actually go up and I'd take the ice out of my thing and I'd break it right by their feet, and they'd be, what'd you do? I'd be like, I just broke the ice. You know what I mean? Like, broke the ice right by their feet or like on the table. It was great.
I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything creative, or if it's just like wanting to talk sports, like that's one thing. Like I get a lot of people from TikTok that come over from Instagram and they're like, yo, love that video. Like, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, okay, like respond to that. I try to be good about the DMs, but sometimes they're just creepy and it's just creepy dudes. That's the majority of my DM request, and you just hit the delete button.
You realize pickup artistry is a thing, right? Like it's a thing.
Oh, it's I mean, not a lot of guys are very good at it from what that have come across in my life, but it's an art. It's a specialty for sure.
Yeah. So before I was married, I knew all of the tactics. I hate to talk about this on the air because, it is what it is, but there's so many there's terminologies, right? There's like peacocking, which is like where you come in, you completely stand out and you look really unique and you get noticed. Then there's like sets. So like there's 2 sets and 3 sets and 4 sets. What, do you know what sets are in pickup
No.
artists? So if you're with a girl, you're a 2-set, right? Like if you're hanging out with your girlfriend, and
Okay.
if you have 2 girlfriends with you, it's a 3-set. So it's like, so if I'm talking to my buddies, but hey, check it over there. Look at 11 o'clock. There's a 3-set at 2 girls or 3 girls or whatever it is. And then basically then you do approaching of the set. So when the 2 guys approach your set, one guy has to handle what they call, it's been so long, but it's like, you're basically your wingman. So my wingman takes on your wingman, distracts you while the other one's working the main target on set. No, there's a whole thing to this. Like it's huge. Like it's a whole thing, right?
Oh my God.
So basically you take turns on who's going to open that set, right? And then if you had a guy in the set, you got to determine if that guy is part of the set as a friend or it's crazy. And then if you walk in with a girl, it's called social proofing. So you're displaying higher value to the other thing. It's a whole thing, man.
My God.
You should be aware of this.
Y'all really go into this like battlefield.
It was never fun. It wasn't like, hey, let's go grab a few drinks. But the more and more pressure you put on yourself, like, you never want to. And another secret is, to all the guys listening, because I know a lot of guys are out there and may not have the confidence to do this. One secret is you cannot make it look like you're hitting on the target. You just can't do it. It's got to be subtle, and it's got to be in a form of just like, you're not approaching to kind of, you're just basically going in there, and you got to make them look like you're not hitting on them. That disables their natural defense mechanism of pushing you. Does this make sense to you, or does this?
No, it does. Absolutely. I agree completely. It's,
you gotta be subtle.
It's absolutely. And I think for me, like, maybe like there's back pre-COVID, I used to go out and watch games like by myself at a bar, which I know makes it easy, which is why lots of targeting happened there. But I mean, I always like, when the conversation flows, when it's really natural, and it's just like, if someone wants to come up and it's like, hey, like, introduces themselves just normally, and I always respect it. I'm always respectful back. I know not every girl is like that, and there's girls that are like, creepy, but you don't want those girls anyway. It's, look, it's terrifying putting yourself out there and approaching somebody. So I always, whether I'm attracted to the person or not from first glance, I will always say hi back, introduce myself, have a conversation here and there. If I'm not feeling it, I will say, nice talking to you, have a good night. Or if it's going well, stick around for more conversation.
Any single guys out there, if you want advice, DM me. That would be a different thing, because I'm not known for giving advice on that, but I could definitely help you. I'm all about people finding the right person, and you can do this in a harmful way where you're out there and you just want to bang a bunch of chicks and stuff like that, or you can do it to find your future wife, which is kind of what I would want to do, is help people break out of their confidence, because there's a lot of single people out there that want to find the right person, but it's hard to find the right person. I think part of that is isolation. You don't want to isolate yourself. You want to break yourself out of your comfort zone. I've done that with entrepreneurship, but you also want to do that in relationship, because you got to put yourself out there one way or another, to attract that right person. So all those guys in your DMs, man, maybe, I think they've had the wrong approach, so hey man, I'm gonna, and I bet you after this, it's like, I had another girl on my show months ago, and they're like, hey, you should bring her on more, we want to see her more. It's like, don't be a creep, dude, man. Like, they know sports, that's why they're on the show. This isn't Instagram model. And that's one thing that bothers me with Instagram models. It's like, looks are great, but it fades, and it's just picture after picture after picture. My first question is, who has time to take all these pictures of you, right? Like, it's a lot of pictures, and it's a lot of narcissism. I want to see, for me, I mean, a lot of guys like that. That's why they've got 1 million followers. For me, I want substance. I want personality. I want to know what's going on. I want that talk, say something intelligent, because the looks fade after 10 years. Then what?
Exactly. And I'm 27 right now and single, about to be 28, but like single still. And like right now, it's like, I'm very busy with, I feel like there's so many excuses for being single, and I might be pulling them out right now, but there's so many, like, just with content wise and all I've got going on, it's just very time consuming. Like, I was just thinking about it last night, where when I watch football on Sundays now, I'm working. I'm like sitting there trying to make sure I have my notes in order. I'm getting clips together, highlighting, editing videos. Like, watching football is not it's watching football is relaxing for me. I love watching it, but it's not like just leisurely, like chilling on the couch a lot of the time. So I don't know if that's the most appealing thing, but also like there's just been weird comments when I've gone on dates just because I like sports and I can talk sports.
Right.
Some guys get very intimidated by it. And I've gotten so many comments from women, especially being like, oh, you have to be careful because you would like scare off guys. You intimidate them. And I'm like, I'm not changing like, if you think I'm going to put myself out there on the internet and do this, like for my career, if you think I'm going to change that so a guy can like me, absolutely not. No, you got to ride this energy. You got to be on for the ride. You got to, be down with the game, especially.
Exactly. Literally speaking, it's football. Got to watch the game, right? You got to get into it.
Exactly.
Now, could you see yourself with somebody who's not into sport? Can you imagine being with someone who's just not into sports? Is that even viable for someone like you?
I've thought about it, and that's people have brought that up before. And for me, like, you don't have to be a huge sports fan. You don't have to be like die hard, which I don't want a fanboy. Like, I don't want guys that like go to every game, like like with all due respect, like I don't need like a fanboy doing their thing because just with my career and everything, it's just, I don't do that. So I just don't think it would be a good match if that were the case. But I forgot where I was going with that. Could I see who wouldn't like sports? I think because it's something that brings me a lot of joy and it is a part of my career. It is my career that there would need to be some level of interest, and you don't have to be crazy, like I said, but some level of interest just for one, because it is my line of work. So I want someone that's going to support me and hype me up when I need to. But as far as like not liking sports at all, I don't see it.
So super fan is definitely out. Hey, wake up, good morning. And you guys like chest pump each other. It's,
I get being, trust me, I'm passionate myself. I get it, but there's just like, there's times where you go, like you'll talk to a guy and you go on their Instagram and it's just like some of like, they're wearing the candy stripe pant, the overalls, the wig, the half painted face. I'm just like, nah. It's like, have you ever seen Fever Pitch with Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon?
No, I haven't actually seen that one.
So Jimmy Fallon's like a huge Red Sox fan, and they're beginning of dating Drew Barrymore, and Drew knew that he was a big fan, but his apartment is like Fenway Park themed. Like it looks like a gift shop. And then she goes home to see her parents and they're watching spring training games. And there's like Jimmy Fallon and his friends just being total idiots on live camera during spring training. And you're just like, oh, like I feel that. Like as if that were me, I'd be like, nope, absolutely not.
I'm just curious. I don't know if you think this is weird or not, because I kind of like talk about my previous guests in a positive way, but I had a guy, I don't know if you saw it, the Mr. T Intimidator guy.
Yes.
Yeah, the entertainer guy. I'm actually going to get the Macho Man imitator guy or entertainer guy. I'm really curious to see, like, would that be kind of weird to you if that's what they're passionate about?
I mean, for me,
that's a tough question because it's such a rare thing to have a guy dressed like a personality 24/7. Would that be kind of weird? Maybe it'd be weird for probably like 90% of people, I would think, or women.
I think for me, just because I want to get to know a person like for who they are and not for who they're imitating, that would be weird for me. Like I want that personal connection. I'm very like, if I'm not, I gotta be fully invested. I'm a person where I need to be fully invested. I need to be all in on you in order for me to want to lock it down and do something serious. So
Mr. T is out right now for you.
I would, if there's no point where the chains come off, then I don't, for me personally, it's just, I don't think so.
I was trying to play matchmaker for a second and I'm just joking. He's actually a nice guy. He's out in Tennessee. So that would be a bit of a long distance thing, but I'm putting everybody on the spot here now. No,
I love it. This has been fun. That's one thing, like sports shows, they usually do the usual song and dance. People ask the same questions. No one's asked really about my my relationships, my DMs. So this has been fun.
Can we be fake for 5 seconds? I want to do what a typical sports show if it was fake for 1 second. Okay. Let me try. Let me get some music here. Ready? Hear that? You can hear the music? It's working?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the sports show. We've got Annie OD on the show today. I was just out there and I was watching this report today where this thing came out and Zeke Elliott's not performing. I really want to hear your thoughts on Zeke Elliott's performance this week because, from what I'm seeing, it just hasn't been good. What are your thoughts? Like, that's what you're going to get. Like, it's
literally,
like, there's no pickup artistry talk. There's no realistic talk. It's just not. Like, I literally did not plan this. There's no notes on this. There's no filter. Like, I'm just kind of just talking off the top of my head. Like, who would ever thought I'd go into pickup artistry? I just kind of where my brain was going.
Well, and part of it's like, when you listen to a sports podcast, you know what you're getting. You know you're getting that content. But I always try to like tie it into when I have guests on. I always try to tie it into some way personal where you get to know the person as they are, whether it's, everyone asks, how'd you get into sports? Oh, well, you're a girl from Southern California. How does that work? Why do you like this team? And it's just like, if you listen to the trailer of my podcast, you know the answer to all those questions, but it's refreshing. That's why like going on these shows is fun. And, I don't talk about, what I look for in guys and like relationships and stuff like that. It's something new. And it's, because there's so many podcasts out there that do the same song and dance. And they're just
afraid
like
to ask questions. Like, they're just afraid. They're afraid.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, so they probably wouldn't ask this, but like, is there like a stigma or what's the word? Do you feel that being a female in this industry, you're kind of at a disadvantage? Do you feel that, like the energy from people? Do people feel that just because you're a woman that, okay, well, she doesn't know more than me? Like kind of how you were saying with some guys, they think, oh, if I date her, she can't outdo me. Is this a constant energy and a feeling you get from people daily or no?
Yes. I would say at least from one person daily. It's this constant, I feel like for women, it's this constant feeling that you have to prove yourself and to prove you know what you're talking about. And at first I felt that a long time, like when I was younger, I did. But then as I got older and when I started the show, and because that was one of my biggest fears, it's like someone's going to listen and think I don't know what I'm talking about. Because you see what people say about the ESPN, people, how many people say Stephen A and Max, which granted, some of their topics I would have to agree are a little fetched out there, even though they probably don't write all their own stuff and pick their positions, but that's beside the point. So many people, they still show up to work every day. They still come in and say what they want, they still have jobs. So I was like, you know what? I know my credentials. I know what I'm talking about. I've put in the work, and I always try to be an open book in that regard too. And I think so many times that women have that wall where they're like, oh, I constantly need to like put up a front. I constantly need to be on the ball. Whereas for me, if I don't know something, if I'm new, I'm not afraid to ask questions. I am not afraid. I'm constantly a student. You're never going to know everything. And I think a lot of people, even the keyboard warriors, even the guys that think they know everything, they don't know everything. And I think it's important to kind of keep yourself grounded in that and say, never turn your nose up to anything and kind of say, all right, teach me about this. Like, why do you think that? Being inquisitive, I think is a great word. But constantly, show your interest. I honestly think that that's really helped me. And also, some women have asked for like, oh, how do you like kind of hold your own in a group full of men, in an industry full of men? I was like, I don't take shit. Like I stand in my position. Like I don't back down. When someone challenges me, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not like, oh, okay. Like, sorry, I don't know anything. I'm like, no, square up. Let's go. Like, speak with confidence. Like, if it's the fake it till you make it kind of thing. If you're not confident, if you're still shy and intimidated, like act like you're not.
Right.
It's that big dick energy. I always say, I love the big dick energy kind of thing. Like act like you've got the biggest pair of balls in the gym. Like, own it. Don't be arrogant. Don't be, act like you're better than everybody, but know who the hell you are.
But it takes a certain guy to approach you now. So a timid guy probably wouldn't do too well with you. You need
No, not at all. No, that's why they get weeded out very quickly.
There you go. So there's a filter. See, I know how it works. I know your type of personality. You need a bit of an alpha that's similar to you. I know the game, but that's besides the fact. But I think there is like a total judgment thing. Like for me, I don't tell people my age too much because a guy that's maybe a year older or 2 years or 10 years older will say, oh, I know more than that guy. So it's not necessarily that it's a female thing, but I think it's just a general, demographic, age, sex. It could be anything, right?
Right.
That says, well, that guy's like that. I won't take advice from that guy. But I really need to break the mold with people. And I want more people to get out there that aren't your typical white collar, I won't name names, Field Yates, Matthew Berry type looking guys, like, like if it was survival of the fittest, I don't think those guys would win versus the counselor. I could assure you that, but it's not like that. We are judged by a place of power and stuff like that. So it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun today. Is there anything else you want to talk about or anything else you want to say to the listeners? And
I was gonna say, no, this has been awesome. And I honestly, not what when you said Joe Rogan style, I was like, oh God, are we just gonna go back? Is there gonna be, was literally not sure what to expect, but this has been so much fun. And I'm very excited to keep listening and see what you do with this new show.
I don't know what I'm doing with it. I have no idea. When I was
you don't need to know. You'll figure it.
When I was going to talk to you, I'm like, what do we talk about? I don't really know her. So what you guys saw here is like, I don't know you. Like it just kind of just flowed and it was an open discussion. And that's one thing I've been good at. Like, I'm not the best athlete. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at a lot of things, right? I don't know how to play an instrument. I started playing piano as a kid. But anyway, besides the fact, I'm not good at a lot of things. But one thing I was good at was the gift of gab and just talking and just holding a good conversation and building rapport with people. And that's probably because I had a good sales background. And I don't know what it is. And just being in the bar scene, I was a bouncer for a couple of years. And it's like so many people didn't know this about me. And I just felt that like just doing the fantasy show was very limiting because anytime I tried to break out of it, like I would talk about anything. I talk about like something that was complete like video games or something like that. And they'd be like, Joe, get back to fantasy. Like, I just didn't want that. People are there to get information. They're there to get their waiver wire pickups and their top 10 lists and all that information. I just felt that I had to start a new show. And it's been hard for me because I'm used to the millions of downloads over the past couple of years. And I'm used to that major audience. And now it's like the downloads aren't there here. So I'm actually putting this out on both the fantasy show and the other show so that it gets traction on both until people kind of jump over to the Joe Kamo show.
No, that's awesome. I feel like, you shouldn't limit yourself, especially in like somewhere like sports. Like everybody's got their thing. Like people like fantasy. There's the sabermetrics analytical guys. There's, the mainstream debate kind of people. There's the historians. Like everyone's got their niche, and which, hey, ride that niche, but also like you said, don't confine yourself, branch out and do other things. Like, despite me loving sports, like I've got other interests too. It's just, am I at the place where I want to start another show about them? Not yet, but it's, it's your career and you have that flexibility where you're your own boss. And if you want to start your own show about something else, you can. But like, just the stick to fantasy thing is stupid. I'm like, I get it. Fantasy is a huge part of sports, but it's not everything.
I want to do kind of like a message of the day or something like that. Now I keep adding stuff to this show when I do it. One thing I want to get, if some of you guys can extract something out of this, is never back down. And I'll give you an example. Like athletes, so many people like kiss their ass. Oh my God, how could you say that about Le'Veon Bell? I had Mecole Hardman come on my post. I don't back down. When they message me, you talked about not backing down. I'm similar to athletes, like pro athletes. Like they'll say something like, "Oh, Joe, yeah, you're tough behind Instagram." I'm like, no, I'll box you. I don't care. I will.
Fire up, let's go.
I don't care. And then that's when you back down to me. I don't back down. Like, unless, a top 5 UFC fighter came out and wanted, that we got to be realistic here, but
right.
I'll take somebody else on because they're not professional fighters. They're probably great athletes. So to me, it's like, I just got to get my cardio up. I get my cardio up, I'll hang with them because I've got the foundation of martial arts behind me. Right.
Yeah.
I'll be fine against, unless he's like, 300-pound guy. And I mean, that's different, but let's, the point I'm trying to make is the point of this show is don't back down. There you go. There's our message.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. You bring that. I know we're trying to wrap this up, but one thing I thought about was anytime like Instagram or like TikTok, wherever, you get the comments or someone like bites you, like says something snarky about your opinion or says something about you and you reply back with something, you bite back. And most of the time they're like, oh, I was just kidding. Like all love, like, I'll love you. And I'm just like, That's right. That's what I thought.
And we don't got to wrap it up. I don't see a producer in the background. I keep this going. My friend Ryan, who's on the show prior to you, he said that he was like 15. But I don't think we shared it on the podcast. We talked after. I don't know if he wants me to share it. But anyway, he was like 15 years old at the time, and he's working as a waiter. And then some rich guy came in. He pulled up in his Jaguar or whatever, and he was in a position of power. And then basically he ordered some dinner or something like that. And he was really mean to my friend Ryan, who was a waiter at the time. He's like, "Get me the ketchup." Right. And then Ryan's like, okay, yeah, I'll get you the ketchup. So I brought him the ketchup, put it down his table. And then the guy didn't say anything. And Ryan leaned in an alpha male type posture. And he goes, "You're welcome." Right. And the guy goes, oh, sorry. Yeah. Welcome. So he kind of, the point I'm trying to make is that everybody's got power if they know how to tap into that. And a lot of people just, back down and they're submissive. You don't have to be submissive. Stand your ground, and not in a violent way, but stand your ground in a way to say, I'm here. I want that respect. I demand that respect. And you're going to earn it, because you'd be surprised. A lot of guys will put their, tail between their legs and run the other direction. It's like it's like the guys that, on the street, the road rage, right? They'll just honk at you and fuck you, screw you. And then sure enough, like, come out of the car now. No. And they drive away. So yeah, I mean, just basically stand your ground. Don't be violent, but stand your ground in business and entrepreneurship and what you believe in, if you believe it's right.
Absolutely. That's one thing I look back, at my time. I did sales too in my first gig. And I look back, and that was one thing I wish I could take back that I did, as like, I didn't know that I could stand up for myself in regards to, because I was in a new position, new job, new manager. I wasn't sure how much leeway I could give, but I gave too much leeway. I compromised so much of myself where I didn't stand up for little things like, hey, I need to hit the button. I have a training session at 6. I got to be out of here at 5 o'clock. But that wasn't always honored all the time. And there's, little things like that where you just got to make boundaries and draw the line and fight for yourself. Like you said, stand up for yourself and, stand with 2 feet on the ground. So I love that message for the show. And it's transferable in any industry and any aspect of life.
Yeah, we're not taught that though. In school, we're taught to conform, put your hand up. And I know there's got to be some sort of law and order, and I get it, but we're just taught to break our natural instinct to really break out and do things that we're meant to do. It's just, I think society plays a big role in that. And I said, screw society. I'm just going to be myself, and it is what it is. I should have broke out a bit sooner, but I guess it is what it is. I broke out a little bit later in life, but hey, I mean, it took my 20s to really figure that out. So I'm here now. And that's all that matters.
Can attest to that. I'm in my late 20s, and I thought that I was too late to the game, that I didn't major the right thing in college and didn't do the right things when I was 22, 23, but it's bullshit. You can recreate yourself and create the life you want at any age. And I 100% believe that. Is it easy? No. Like, once you make the decision, the hard work, it's making the decision and making the first move is hard, but the work comes after. Over the past year, I'm coming up on my 1-year podcast anniversary, and the hours and just learning and figuring out what I was doing, like it was so much work, and worth it. Absolutely. Like, wouldn't change it for the world. It's just, I feel like, we talk the whole time about, not having a boss. And I thought about that in college and in high school. I was never taught what things is a boss able to tell you and able to impose on you? What limits do you have? Like, boss says you can't leave at 5. Oh, you got to listen to that. And I learned that, no, you need to take control of the situation. Otherwise, I wasn't getting paid enough. I was junior enough. There were times where you're barely paying me enough money to live in New York City. I am not going to spend over 8 hours a day, more than 8 hours doing a job that you frankly don't pay me enough for. So I feel like if there's anyone young in high school and in college listening to this, just know that a manager does not have the right to control your mental health, your emotional health. You reserve the right to have a life outside of work and fight for that right.
Yeah. And I think once you break out, you realize that you don't have to exchange your time for money, right? That's what you're doing when you work on a salaried job. And I'm very grateful to have broken out of that. And it really hit me when I went to a Christmas party at that old company I went to. And I just went to visit them on a Christmas party. Like, hey, I had a free lunch there and stuff. And I went there and I sat down, had the lunch. And I was like 2 years into my entrepreneurship venture and I was on my own. And then the manager came out and she's like, "Hey guys, when you're done your food, you guys can go home." It's like, oh my God, it felt like you can tell me I get to go home now. It's like, oh my God, just that feeling kind of hit me. And that's when I'm like, oh my God, I would never work for anybody. That person is telling me when I can go home.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's so, I'm so grateful to be doing this on my own. I hope that people can get inspired, but for some people it takes pain to break out of that. For me, it was the loss of my dad that really woke me up and said, I don't want to settle. Right. That was back in 2015. I won't get into that in this show because that just opens up a whole thing. But that was a big driver for me, was losing him suddenly to a heart attack. And it just really propelled me to just not settle because we came from humble beginnings. And yeah, so yeah, I mean, that wraps it up, guys. I can go on forever talking, but I mean, if you guys, like the show, make sure you guys are following. And Annie OD, by the way, OD, just, do people get that confused with overdose at all?
That was a concern of mine when I started, when I launched the podcast, but not really. So far, it's been very good. I was very concerned with, 2019 was when it launched. I try to be very cognizant and sensitive towards, triggers and things like that. But after a study amongst a few of my close colleagues and friends, everyone was like, no, go for it, like run with it. But no, OD has become a nickname. It's a nickname for me, and actually a few of my brothers are called OD by their teammates. They're all athletes. So although I'm getting the money and the brand from my OD. So I like to think I have majority stake.
No, I think you should go, it's good because you could sports overdose, because some people so into sports. It actually shows that you could think of it. I thought of it as I'm ODing on sports. Like, this person's totally obsessed with sports.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thought. So it just helps that my last name's O'Donnell.
So it worked out naturally. And it was hard for me to come up with this show name. I wanted, because I was going with Joseph Robert. Robert's my middle name, which was my dad's first name. It's also my middle name. So Joseph Robert, 2 first names. It wasn't as catchy. I think Joe Kamo Show just had a nicer ring to it. So yeah, I'm just going to ride the Joe Kamo Show, which is actually kind of it's actually my real last name, but it's just spelt differently. So people get confused. There's an H in there and stuff, but I just kind of condensed it, but it's really pronounced like kind of Joe Kamo.
Yeah.
So I'm riding.
Rolls off the tongue. I love it.
Joe Kamo Show. It just kind of
flows.
So yeah,
it's not a tongue twister, just nice and easy. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. So go post more. I want to see more videos.
Okay. I will. I have to work on a flick one. Maybe I'll post that on my page too.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys being here. Annie OD, go follow her. Links are below. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.
We're out.